Thanks so much for attending my session, Recognizing Information Privilege in OER Landscape. So this slide deck is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial, no derivatives 4.0 international license. The presentation, as you may have seen, focuses on the idea and concept of information privilege within teacher education students and its program. And I'm going to explain what this concept is, and as well as explore how we can use this concept to really teach teachers how to understand and value OER praxis and practices to support their own curriculum development and education initiatives. And we're going to use this framework, this information literacy framework, to unpack how their own understandings within their own classrooms, and then really advocate for OER from there. So the learning outcomes include learn how to engage with preschool to high school teachers on OER practices, introducing the concept of information privilege in the OER praxis. So first, I wanted to share that I am the academic and research librarian at the Alder Graduate School of Education, which is a teacher's residency program in California. We have about 450 graduate students who are pre-service teachers based in the state of California in the United States, and they are getting their one-year master's degree program. They're in a one-year master's degree program and getting that degree while credentialed, and also placed across different schools in California where we are partnered with them. And our goal is to train, retain, and support excellent teachers, especially teachers of color. And I am the solo librarian supporting all teachers who are who are students who are becoming pre-service teachers and teacher educators, so the faculty members. And I also teach in some of the classes in the master's only pathway program for credentialed teachers. So the concept of infant privilege, what is it? So the best way to illustrate the concept of information privilege is to show you this visual from Hannah Rozier, Duke University, Library 101 Toolkit, which is here inspired by the concept of white privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack by Peggy McIntosh and Char Booth's work on information privilege. Information privilege is the concept that focuses on the affordances or sort of the status of one's position in terms of accessing information. And what that means is that you might have more access to power because you have access to information in different ways than other people. You're privileged in that sense. So in this graphic here on the left side, you see high school, and on the right side, you see college. Now, you might be looking at each one and you might be thinking, if you had that experience, and if you had that experience, then likely you have advantages and privilege, because not all schools have a school library. Not all schools have a school library. Not all schools have databases. Not all schools have opportunities where it doesn't go through budget cuts, or that you as an individual were able to purchase your textbooks for your courses. I usually use this image when I teach classes for the pre-service teachers as well as the credential program, that they understand where they're coming from. And many of them that do have libraries in their schools, especially in high school, as well as the P6 level, so preschool till sixth grade, they have a lot of resources actually. And those that do not have school libraries at all, they have to build their own libraries in the classroom, right? And so that's usually a challenge that they have that is unfortunately being perpetuated and experienced by their students. And so their students don't have access to a library because the teachers don't have access to it either. But if they do have access, then they have opportunities to really develop literacy skills, programming, research skills, academic skills, and development. And so this was a really good exercise when we come together and ask each of the teachers to see which areas do they check off, which is something that they have experienced, which is something that they wish they had. It's a really great way to engage with them and understand this concept in practice in their own positionality and their own identity. So this is something we would do, have them think and reflect on their own experiences and in their placements. Placements are where they are for the pre-service teachers, where they will be based across the state of California, where we are partnered with in the schools throughout the year. So they might be at a public school or at a unified school, etc. And then they might be teaching math or multiple subjects or kindergarten or first grade. And then they have to have an opportunity to reflect on this visual. And then we would come together and have an opportunity to discuss it and also have them share their experiences and circle what was something they experienced, what was something they didn't experience online, on Zoom, sharing it out loud. And then from there, we would do another assessment. Okay, so when you're engaging with teachers informally or formally, it's always important to have sort of an exit ticket or a way to understand what they learned. What questions do they still have about searching, and what is one takeaway? So aside from showing them this concept of information privilege, we actually go through the library databases because they might have to do some research, they might have to do some sort of assignment that's related to a research topic of their interest. And so they might have questions about the searching process. But what is one takeaway that they might have that they come out from the session? And so this is some way to assess what works and what needs to be changed or improved. We have discussions later also to think about K-12 teaching and learning. So this is from OER Commons, and this is something I use to share sometimes so that they can see what's available for them if they have limited resources and they need some curriculum or some sort of inspiration to look at. And so when we think about information privilege, and then we think about a resource like this that's free, they start thinking about, well, why can't things be open and available and support and resourceful? Unfortunately, that's not the situation that we're in. There are costs and so forth involved. And so when we show them these resources, then they have a better appreciation of their positionality, where their schools are based, their own experiences, if they have access to some of these resources already, and a resource like this that's open for them to use. And I also want to share that for my work as a librarian, I am involved in teaching educators, right? Like the teachers I mentioned. So I use the Association of College and Research Libraries framework for information literacy. And they have a lot of different frames. And so this one came from the Instruction for Educators. And I want to highlight these areas in a way to think about how we teach teachers about OER, about information access, about sort of the understanding of that landscape. And so the first one says, teacher professional practice, information has value frame. So we need to think about ways to advocate for equitable access to resources and thinking about multiple perspectives as well. So we are training teachers to think about that and how they can advocate for equitable access to resources because of the one they just saw, the OER Commons, but also like within their classrooms, right? What they can do. Teacher pedagogy practice. So in this case, we want to expose our students to understand the concept of openness to new perspectives, additional voices, and changes in school of thought. And so this is a very important work in thinking about information privilege and how they need to think about the students that they're teaching and serving that might not have access, and what about their perspectives going forward. Teacher preparation and education. So this one is very important to think about the awareness of individuals and groups, especially who are underrepresented or marginalized within systems, and thinking about the impact that they experience in schools. And so the teachers need to understand that. So if there are some teachers that do not have a school library, they need to really understand how would that impact their students going forward and without having information privilege. So this came from the committee that established it from 2021 to 2020 to 2022, as you can see here. And then the source here that you can find out more on this Instruction for Educators companion document to the ACRL framework. So how does this concept connect to OER? Well, a few things I wanted to share. libraries and librarians in preschool to 12th grade schools in the United States are extremely lacking. And as a result, students may not be developing academic skills and lacking resources to connect to the library. And so if they're not developing those skills, then they might be going through other unfortunate challenges, right, and circumstances. But it's important to recognize that free is not always free, but there are labor involved. So that might mean copyright, Creative Commons, fair use. All these concepts are introduced, but the concept of free is something that we really bring into the conversation when we have information privilege and open educational resources. But the goal at the end is to advocate for equitable access to resources that provide multiple perspectives, right? So that students have access to the information they need for learning, for research, and so forth. And so this concept of information privilege is really, really important so that the teachers understand the landscape that they're in, but thinking about ways to ensure better support for the students that they teach. And here are some of my resources that you can see and learn more. And thank you so much again to the Open Education Conference Planning Committee for accepting my presentation. And you can reach out to me if you have any questions or look at the slide deck as you need to. Thanks so much.